Mr. Victor Olorunfemi, the head of branding and communications at Bantu Blockchain Foundation, to take the keynote speech as we round off the first session of the program. Thank you very much once again, Irene. We really appreciate your presence, ma'am. Mr. Victor, please, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning from Lagos, Nigeria. It's been a pleasure. It's been nice hearing from all the speakers. Mrs. Aziza Jibril, thank you very much, for sharing with us, what the regulators actually think about the space and the direction in which they're going. Mr. Toyin, thank you so much for your speech, and every other person that has spoken. We have a very, very short time to discuss something really practical, which is the heart of the subject today. I mean, the theme of this event is NFTs, the wild and the wonderful. So I think that I'm going to have to strip off a lot of stuff that I'd sort of prepared. But before I do that, let's do a very quick survey of the crowd that we have here, because that will help me be able to, tailor whatever I'm saying properly. On a scale of 1 to 10, right? Just drop in the comment box how familiar you are with NFTs, with 1 being, 0 being not familiar, and 10 being I'm an expert. All right, just let me see what you're saying there in the comment section so that I would know how to be able to speak properly. So I see a 10, I see 7, I see 6, I see 0. While all those comments are dropping, I'll do a quick introduction of what Bantu Blockchain Foundation is about. I know people have said all kinds of things about digital assets, distributed ledger technology. When people talk about these things, they are more inclined, to think about foreign technologies, so to speak, because historically, we've always loved to consume technologies, infrastructure from other parts of the world, and it puts us at a disadvantage in terms of the kind of understanding we can have on how these technologies work, the contributions we can make, and how we can be forward-thinking, either as innovators or as regulators. So Bantu Blockchain Foundation is the first Africa-led distributed ledger technology infrastructure. It's not a product. It's not a product. It is a platform through which you and I and everybody here today, whether enterprises or human beings or other regular business people, the man on the street, will be able to create their own intellectual property, digitize, their time, digitize their intellectual property, digitize real estate, digitize all kinds of things. All the innovations that are going to happen in what we call Web3 today is supported by Bantu Blockchain Foundation. And it's very critical, because in Africa, we need to be at the forefront of innovation. And what we've historically done, as you might have seen with the history of M-Pesa mobile money, is that when Africans come and adopt a technology, they hit the nail on the head. They let go of legacy stuff and try to solve problems. They go right to the heart of it, right? And that's why you can see that some of our technology, like our banking, our payment systems, are some of the most advanced in the world. So the same for Bantu Blockchain Foundation, which is that platform in which you're going to have all your digital assets, all the tokenization that's going on today. For example, there's a massive real estate tokenization project happening on Bantu Blockchain as we speak. There's an NFT marketplace coming on Bantu Blockchain as we speak, etc., etc. So now just going into the comment section. So I see a lot of 10, 5, 5, 4, 3, a couple of zeros, etc., etc. So that means that I will just assume that people here have a basic knowledge of NFTs, and I'll try as much as possible not to dwell too much. A very quick context. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share my screen. I don't know if someone can help me with that. For some reason, I'm not able to do that. But I'll just go ahead. As many of us here as are familiar with assets, okay, good. I think I'm good. So let's do that. All right, can you see my screen? All right, good. NFTs, when you hear NFTs, what comes to your mind? I know we've said a lot of things, a lot of academic things, but what exactly comes to your mind when you hear NFTs? Typically, you have people thinking about things that have been done that has made people a lot of money, right? People think about, how somebody sold a certain NFT for a certain amount of money, and people seem to get carried away with all the money making stories around NFTs. People get carried away with all the scams that, as well, but they really do not tend to understand the potential, of how this can shape, and change the world that we're living in today. All right. So I'm just going to go quickly. You can see the picture that I have here. Some of the most important discussions that we've had about NFTs in the last 1 year have been captured on this singular screen here. First and foremost, there was a story of people of a digital artist that sold something for about $63 million. And I think that kind of cast the spotlight on the space. And then we started to have all sorts of FOMO, all sorts of activity and attention being, cast into the space. And we had Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, who, sold his first tweet on the marketplace for about $2.3 million. And people thought, okay, this is crazy. Why would anybody want to buy someone else's tweet? All right. And then we had, CryptoPunks. If you can see this guy with the blue bandana on the screen, which today still sells for over $100,000, a piece, some going for $2 million a piece. And we had the board, APR Club. We have all these funny looking, some say ugly pictures selling for a lot of money. You wonder, why is this happening? Well, but typically when innovation comes, sometimes the memes, the comic factor, helps to bring a lot of attention into it. And then when that trend has died down a little bit, then you begin to have the real practical innovations happening. Because now people already understand what NFTs are. You're now able to introduce them into how can this change my life? All right. Some of you might have, heard or seen this picture. The picture of this old man I have here was a drummer where a youth corps member went and took, a picture of him and I put it on the marketplace, sold as an NFT, made over $1 million naira, so to speak, and then went ahead and presented him with half of those sales, etc., etc. And then you have a game card. And then you have this ugly little bird-like thing here, which was disruptive for the Philippines regulatory space, in that they saw an upsurge of millionaires in the Philippines, and they could not attribute their income to either fraud or some physical production or economic activities in the Philippines, right? These people turned out to be making money in the metaverse, making money in the gaming space, and the regulatory authority had to say, look, we don't know how it's going to be done, but you have to go and tax them. We need our share of the spoils. All right, so these are conversations that have happened in the last 1 year. Although NFTs have been a subject of discussion for as far back as 2012, 2013, and then became a bit more popular when the Ethereum blockchain launched in 2014, and then became really mainstream. Though I feel like we're still going to have like a major wave coming. Became mainstream from 2018 down to the current time that we're in. All right, so that's a bit that's sort of like giving us a bit of a history about NFTs. Now, assets, right? So what are NFTs at the very core? You're all familiar with assets, right? Assets are physical, digital. Let's just keep it like binary like that, physical, digital. And then and you wonder, what does that fungible mean? Going through this sort of like I hope that will help to trigger our discussions and imaginations as to what constitutes an NFT and what doesn't. All right. Fungibility just simply means that you are able to exchange a version of this particular thing to represent the other one. For example, you have your 1,000 naira note. The 1,000 naira notes, there's no two 1,000 naira notes that have the same serial number, right? Some of them are actually even minted at different parts, different years. But whenever I take a 1,000 naira note to a marketplace, it will always carry the value of 1,000 naira. They are interchangeable. That is what fungible means, right? That's why you have the pictures here that I have about money, about tokens, chips, at a casino, for example, and gold bars, all right? And those are physical assets that are fungible, all right? When you come to non-fungible, these are physical assets, especially from this, Southwest quadrant. These are physical assets that you can exchange, right? You can touch them, you can feel them, but you cannot, you cannot represent your school certificate. You cannot use it to represent another person. Otherwise, that will be fraud. Your school living certificate is unique to you and to you alone. All right. You cannot use it. Your brother cannot use it as his own. Right. Your land title deed, for example, a sculpture, a picture, a painting. These are unique assets that are non-fungible, even though they're physical. Now, when we move into the electronic or digital realm, and we have things like, your Ethereum, your Bantu tokens, that are fungible as well, just like money is. You can exchange one Bantu digital asset for another. Nobody will say, oh, but this one came into existence yesterday, while the other one came into existence 12 years ago. All right. And when you move to the Southeast quadrant, you have these items that I put in here, the NFTs, especially the Axie Infinity NFT, your digital school certificates, your tokenized land title deed. All right. These are things that are non-fungible. This is where the world is moving into, by the way. We're slowly, there's been a transition over the last decade of moving our attention from the physical into the digital. And thanks to COVID, that got accelerated a lot, right? More people spend their time and put their attention online. This is why this particular topic is actually very, very important and interesting. And innovators and regulators are likely to place a lot of attention to it. A lot of things are happening right under your nostrils. Your kids are living in an alternate universe, right? Without you even knowing, right? Through their games, through their phones, right? Just like I said, in the Philippines, a lot of millionaires sprung up. And the government had no idea how that happened. Why? Because people are transitioning from a physical economy into a digital economy. And so every serious regulator and innovator and every serious enterprise needs to pay a lot of attention as to the activities and innovations that are happening in the digital space and ensure that they can be among the early adopters and be able to have an understanding of how to work in those places. I'm going to skip all the NFT lingo because I saw that most people are already they have basic knowledge about NFTs, and I already kind of spoke about some of these stories, NFT stories. What I didn't speak about, which I may not spend so much time on, are some of the risks associated with this. As with anything digital, there is a heightened risk of cyber security issues, right? There is a heightened risk of frauds. There's a heightened risk of loss of funds, significant loss of funds, which I believe is where some of the regulatory authorities come in and try to sort of play a big brother role to ensure that people, investors and otherwise are protected. But this is a reality that we cannot escape. The world continues to move deeper and deeper into the metaverse, deeper and deeper into the digital space, deeper and deeper. Attention keeps going. All the big tech are fighting for your attention, all right? Most people now spend most of their time on their phones, right, than they do in real life. That's just to show you that people have shifted attention from the physical into the physical. People will brag now about having a blue tick on their Twitter and Instagram, right? People now care more about digital property, digital IP, followers, their voice in the metaverse, than they do about maybe the Rolexes and some of the other physical things that you have, all right? So there's a serious paradigm shift happening as we speak today, right? And so that's why NFTs, as digital assets must be taken seriously. But beyond all the fanfare, beyond all the crypto punks and the bored apes and the pictures and the tweets and all of these things, what are some things that we can actually do with NFTs? I put a slide here that shows you the creation process, show that anybody here can create an NFT. It is nothing extraordinary. It's nothing out of the blues, right? And I'm sure that when Bantu is done releasing its NFT marketplace, it will even be easier for the regular person on the street to be able to convert their intellectual property, whether it be their artwork or their musical piece or a video that's shot somewhere, or their domain names, or any other intellectual property they have, into NFTs, and ensure that they are able to maintain ownership. All right, they're able to ensure that even when these properties get transferred, they can, in perpetuity, earn royalties. How do people create NFTs? It's pretty simple, right? You upload your digital asset that you've created, you choose the marketplace. All right, so I have some examples here again. Unfortunately, I can't really delve deep into this. You connect what is called your digital wallet, right? In the case of Bantu, it will be your Bantu Pay wallet. In the case of Ethereum, it could be your MetaMask wallet, etc., etc. You connect your wallet to the marketplace. You upload that IP, right? You upload it to the platform. Now, what makes it non-fungible? You ask me, why is a picture different from another picture, right? Once a picture is uploaded to something that is called the interplanetary file system, right? That picture is encoded, as the first and true source of that particular asset, right? And so whenever that asset is going to be posted again online, uploaded again online, there is a mechanism, a digital way in which the consensus, the protocol that's being used to verify assets will say, no, this already exists and belongs to someone. So imagine if you were going to tokenize your real estate, your land title deed, all right? Nobody would forge that property and put it online and say, look, I have the same copy. Think about some of the practical things that NFTs will do. And I hope that I'm able to touch on some of those things in the next slide. All right, I'm just going to skip again all of this stuff because it's not necessarily like a training session. I'm just going to go into trends and predictions so that we can, move into the next section. At the moment, we have a lot of flex happening. When I say flex, what do I mean? People are buying or delving into NFTs to be able to say that they belong to an elite club of people, right? Why would somebody spend $1 million on a picture of an ape, for example, right? They want, just like someone would say, why would anybody buy a $1 million wristwatch, right? Why would you buy that, right? But it gives you a certain feeling of belonging to an elite club, to an exclusive, group of people, right? There's such a thing as the vanity industry, all right, where people will pay a lot for stuff that do not fundamentally have more practical meaning or use case to the other substitutes, but they'll pay because it shows that they belong to a certain elite club. These are why people pay. This is why rather people pay a lot of attention to luxury items, all right, luxury groups. They're not necessarily, from a practical perspective, doing more, right? Your Rolex wristwatch is not necessarily going to tell you when you're going to die or anything of that nature, but you wear one. You carry an expensive bag, even though it will do. You carry a $2,000 bag, even though a $50 bag might, perform the same function, because we're in a flex territory where people are simply just buying these things, that people buy pieces of art to show that, they own one of the only 10 in collections in the world. They belong to the elite group of people that have, a limited edition of things. All right, art and IP. Now that is already shaping up. We're already seeing people posting their artwork. All right, that is to me, even a more practical, use case. We've had people, I've watched documentaries of people who said they've never sold their physical painting for anything maybe more than $100,000 naira before, but today are able to sell collections for over $5,000, over $10,000, right? Thanks to this digital technology, in which they're able to tokenize their creative work, and they're able to put it on a platform that is now exposed to people around the globe, not just in their local streets where they hang their artwork and write, maybe fencing studios and put their number or something there. Now they have the platform to be able to showcase all that they've got, and they're able to get true value for it. And they're also able to maintain that the original idea came from them. All right, so you have art and IP. So this also applies to music samples. This also applies to even video clips. All of you might have heard during COVID period, there was a very popular meme back then, the pallbearers, where it was trending on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, where something happened and you'd see these, Ghanaian pallbearers, carrying the caskets, and then this astronomical sound, in the background. That thing, became a cultural, it became a meme. It became something that everybody was using. But those who created it, the only value they got was satisfaction that everybody was using their meme. Today, thanks to NFTs, they were able to take that particular creativity to the market, and they were able to sell it for, a couple $100,000s of dollars. Right? The same thing today. You have a picture of, the picture of, Charlie. There was a video picture of a baby that beat, the elder brother, that did the rounds, became very popular. Prior to now, the kind of satisfaction you had was that, okay, you got 1 million views, maybe Google paid you a little amount for driving traffic to their platform. But today, you're able to convert that value, that thing you created, into, monetary value. And what's good? That item can also be transferred. Any other person that's interested, can also purchase it and become an owner of it. And guess what? The original person that came up with the idea, because NFTs are programmable, can say, whenever this thing gets sold, I still want to be getting 2% out of it. Regardless, I don't need to know who's buying it. I don't need to know. Sell it to 100 people, I don't care. The program, the smart contract ensures that you constantly get rewarded for your intellectual property. So we're moving from Flex. Flex will continue to remain there because people will always want to own exclusive, items. But we're also now starting to see a proliferation of people who are building, who are posting their artwork, their photography, and things like that are getting value for it. Collectibles. This you see in games. The gaming industry is, I'm going to take this collectible and games together. The gaming industry is one that people are taking for granted. I once heard a story of a man who I think earns maybe just about 250, earns about 250,000 naira salary, goes out to hustle for the family, and then during a holiday, obviously, bought a game for his kid. And then in playing those games, the kid, because of some in-game transactions, was able to win a couple of tasks. And thanks to game finance technology, what people call GameFi today, earned close to about over $2,000 there. And then kept telling the father, how can I, please, can you help me to convert this? And the father kept saying, Junior, just leave me alone. I'm hustling. Have you done your assignments, etc., etc., etc. The father is going out trying to hustle and make sure that everybody's happy. But the boy kept persisting. Daddy, I think, we can convert this into real, physical financial value. Eventually the father decided to, let me just listen to this kid so that this kid can stop disturbing me. And I realized that this kid had made, like I said, over $2,000-3,000 just playing games, completing tasks online, whereas he would go for the whole month, get into the Lagos traffic and all of that stuff, have his, brain fried in the sun, all of that stuff, earning just about $500. But the kid sitting down here, just because the kid is living in the world that we're moving to ahead of the parents, all right, has sat down here and just by virtue of playing games and doing certain things, earned, over $3,000. Now the man had to say, Junior, please come, sit down and show me. What did you do to earn this? What would you like daddy to get for you so that you can focus your attention during this holiday, to let's see how we can make more, of this. All right, that is the world we're living in today. GameFi is becoming more explosive. The more people spend time at home, work from home, the more people want to spend more time on the internet, the more people realize that they are able to actually earn a lot of money just by playing games, or just by doing activities, just by hanging out with virtual friends and doing things. All right, so that is a space that regulators and people need to be more conversant with. Otherwise, we will be here discussing about the physical aspects, and there's a parallel and alternative world happening right under our noses with a lot of economic activity going on, and with a lot of scams as well, happening. Digital ID, all right, I mentioned this before, where I said another practical application of NFTs will be your digital certificates, will be your digital ID, where you're able to tokenize your digital identity. Or you're able to take it along with an NFT that is portable across all kinds of platforms. All right, and I'm about to round up. So all platforms, you're able to carry your digital identity. People, your drivers, your criminal history, for example, your academic records, all of those things can be carried, along, and you can choose who you want to share this with online. What website you want to have access to this, right? And nobody can forge your identity or forge your certificate. There will be very little identity theft because you are the sole person that carries this identity and is able to give access to people on how this will work. And finally, like I mentioned before, we're starting to have what tokenized title deeds. Think about this. One man today sells the same piece of land to people, to like 5 different people, and all of them have to fight it out amongst themselves in the court of arbitration, for example. And some will use even jungle justice methods to become, to become triumphant in terms of ownership. When land title deeds begin to get digitized, just like I said previously, right, it becomes, the sole ownership of one person, such that when you're transferring one property to another person, it is signified or indicated or demonstrated by you simply transferring the NFT or digitized version of the land title to the other person. So only the person that owns that digital asset will be able to lay claim of the land. There will be no need for cases that will argue it. Do you have proof that this belongs to you? Right? If you do, then show it. If you do not, then you do not own the property. So that already in itself solves a lot of problems and disrupts positively, I hope, a certain sector of the economy, and solves a lot of problems, for people who take it seriously. So these are just a few trends and predictions about this space, and I think that this is probably a good time to allow us to be able to segue into the next section. Again, I try to keep this as simple as possible, not really go in depth into how to create these things, but just so that you have an understanding of what NFTs stand for beyond all the glitz, beyond all the, spending a lot of money, beyond all the trying to flip to have, to spend more money, to make money, you buy this and sell it for 2x, 3x. This is really going to change and transform our lives. Today, people are buying pieces of land in the metaverse. It sounds stupid, but guess what? Wherever there is activity and traffic, the big brands will pay a lot of money to advertise their brands. And so there will be a lot of economic activity in those places. So imagine that you had a piece of land. I'm not advocating for you to go and buy a piece of land. This is by no means financial advice, but let's just imagine, right? Like I said, esports and e-gaming is becoming a very big deal around the world. It's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise around the globe. And you own a piece of property, for example, right? And there was going to be a digital car race, electronic car race, section that was going to happen there, where you have the likes of Mercedes and other big brands happening. You own that property. For them to be able to fly their digital, mast or their digital flags or whatever on your property, they will need to pay you a lot of money, right? So this.
Okay, Victor, thank you very much, Victor. I'm so sorry to interrupt you at this point. We need to round up the session because of the next things we have lined up. Thank you.
So this is a good place for me to stop, and I would gladly hand over the microphone back to the moderator. Thank you very much. Yep.
Thank you very much, Victor. Thank you for that detailed explanation, and then for really explaining it to all of us. At this point, I'd like attendees to please listen carefully and also look at the chat box, because we have something special for you. So we have the Bantu Pay wallets, just everything that Victor has just explained. For attending this program, you have the opportunity to download the Bantu Pay wallet and register an account. The Bantu Pay wallet allows you a non-custodial wallet for safe storage and transfer of all digital assets on the Bantu blockchain. There will be an airdrop of Bantu Digital Assets XBN to the attendees of this webinar. So feel free, if you are interested in keeping or using the digital assets, you can feel free to download this Bantu Pay wallet. Thank you so much. And also feel free to keep dropping your questions, because we have a session mapped out to answer and address all your questions. So at this point, we'll wrap up the first session, like I explained, and I'd like to thank all the speakers. A very special thank you would go to our very own special person, Mrs. Irene Robinson Ayowanle. She's the divisional head for the Business Support Services Division, and she's also the General Counsel. So whatever you are seeing today, she's like our power bank. She's the brains we always run to pick and then get ideas. So whatever you are seeing today is like her brainchild. Thank you very much, Irene, for the support and all the energy. Thanks a lot. Okay, so we'll move on to the panel session. And I'd like to welcome the founder of the Wi-Fi Combat Academy, Mrs. Dele Toju-Osho, should be moderating the second session of this program. So sit back, relax, and enjoy your stay. Thank you. Mrs. Dele.
Yes, please. So can you hear me, please? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So good morning, distinguished guests, the panelists, and other guests that came for this program. This panel is going to be very interesting. The questions that we want to ask, we want to learn more. I really learned a lot from what Mr. Victor said, in the fact that the physical economy has moved to the digital economy, and we need to understand that landscape. And that's why we're having this panelist. So we have like 3 guests. Let me just quickly share my screen. I just did something. I just did this for everyone to see. Sorry. I'll soon remove it, but I just wanted to make it interesting. So we have our 3 panelists. So we have Mr. Victor again. We're going to ask more questions so he can enlighten us So what he just did was just a brief introduction of what NFTs are. But we're going to go deep into NFTs. Then we have this young lady, Mary Jane Ozudima. She's just 19 years old, and she's now a player within the NFT space. She's been able to create beautiful collections, and she's been able to sell it. And then I was even surprised that Twitter bought her collections. So she's here to tell us her wonderful story. And then we have Mr. Aziz, who's going to talk more about how do we trade. How do we trade on the NFT? Is it worth it or is it not worth it? So let me go to the speaker again. I'm going to talk to Mr. Victor and I'm going to ask questions. So before then, I would like to talk a bit about his profile. So Mr. Victor is working with a team of brilliant Pan-African techpreneurs to crash the cost of remittance to and within Africa, leveraging on blockchain and other exponential technologies, whilst also ensuring that Africans can travel from one country to another using only one currency of choice. Following the successful execution of his ambitious project, this team will be working on simplifying the exchange of services within Africa, thus enhancing the employability of more young African talents and expanding Africa's gig economy. Victor is also part of the Bantu Blockchain Foundation, whose vision is to become the largest distributed network infrastructure with the most decentralized governance model for wealth creation and economic sovereignty for humanity. Previously, Victor led the tax technology and innovation operating unit for PwC Nigeria, where he and his team created a best-in-class digital tax and procedure for Nigeria. Victor was responsible for designing and implementing other technology solutions for the firm and clients. Victor is an active technology enthusiast with a background in the science, instruments, new technologies. Victor has been involved in the blockchain space since 2016 and has supported some African projects in the blockchain space in an advisory capacity. So Mr. Victor, you're welcome. So I'm going to ask questions. So let me just stop sharing. Yeah, let me just stop sharing so that you can come on board. Okay. So the questions I want to ask, you've really answered a lot of questions. You're able to distinguish what non-fungible tokens and tokens are. So you've already asked some of my questions, but some of the questions that I want to talk about is that non-fungible tokens seems to have exploded out of years, from arts to music to games, and having a big assets of over millions of dollars. But the question that I want to ask is that are NFTs worth the money, or is it just a hype? Some experts say that they're a bubble, poised on pop like the dot-com craze. Others believe NFTs are here to stay and that they will change investing forever. The question that I'm asking you this, we recently noticed that the Twitter quotes by the founder of Twitter sold for millions of dollars. And when they were trying to reset it, the buyer was about to reset it, the market share, it just slumped. And I don't think can even sell over $100,000. So that's why I'm asking you, is NFT worth the money or is it just a hype? So we'd like you to talk more about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So to paraphrase your question, the man thought he was buying Rolls Royce, but in the end could only sell it for the price of fufu. NFTs, the NFT market is a pretty liquid market, right? It's very subjective, right? There's an analogy I like to make, and it was something someone told me when I was in university and said, do you know that you can sell a $20 handkerchief for 500 Naira? And I thought, are you going to blow powder on someone's face and tell them buy for 500 Naira? Or what exactly are you going to do? And he said, just create a story around it. You know, tell someone how this handkerchief signifies, you know, their love for their partner and how it signifies, you know, clean heart, blah, blah, blah. Put a few roses, tie some ribbons, package it as the proposal handkerchief or something of that nature, all right? And watch how people automatically, change their minds. It's amazing how the human mind can be easily programmed or reprogrammed, and start doing the same thing. What happens where, where someone, this is an example. You also have examples in maybe even the religious space, right? Where they say maybe a preacher has done something on a particular handkerchief and it becomes immediately more relevant or more valuable, so to speak, to people who are watching than if they are just going to buy the same thing on the street. It's always about the story around it. When you're buying it, you're buying into a story that someone has created and told you. When you're selling it, does that story still exist? Are you able to create a superior story? If not, then I'm sorry. The NFT you bought for $1 million, so people might not be willing to buy it from you for more than $100. All right. So when you say do NFTs have value, it's almost like saying, does artwork have value? Someone wraps uses duct tape to tape a banana on a white background, and it sells for a ridiculous amount of money. And you wonder, I use a banana on white painting with duct tape. How does that make any sense? But whoever was buying that was probably buying into the idea of the person, for example, who created the art, the stories that was created around it, where it was auctioned, right? And that's the reason why you see that some NFT marketplaces, seem to be more successful than others, because they have liquidity. They are popular. People expect that whatever you have from this particular marketplace is top range. All right. So it is not a right or wrong answer. It is not to say whether it's a bubble or not. It is just to let people know that whenever they are dealing with NFTs, it is a very illiquid market. And whatever you have bought for $1 million, the fact that you bought it for $1 million does not mean the other person is willing to buy it from you at that particular amount of money. It's not a practical. It's not like buying Apple and then you want to sell the Apple at a premium. You've bought a picture, a painting. The other person might not see the thing. That there's a funny. Sorry, I'm just going to wrap it. There's a funny thing, video I watched online where this person was doodling something on a table. I was a secretary. I was a receptionist at a gallery. And then people were coming to buy artworks for $500, $500,000, $500,000 naira, $200,000 naira. And somebody saw what she was doodling and said, "Wow, this is ingenious. This is so different. Can I pay you $100,000 for this?" And then she thought, is this man stupid? Who wants to pay me $100,000 for something I'm doing out of boredom? And then the Lagos, sense in her just came and said, no, this thing, I know 100,000 is too small for this thing. And the man kept pushing. And then they were somewhere around 500,000. And the lady was still pushing her luck. Now, if this man is so hungry to buy this thing for me at this price, let me see where, he would not be able to push it, any further. And then something interrupted them. And the man had to go ahead, got distracted and bought another piece. And the next person who came, the lady now thought, well, I've missed out. Let me try and sell it to this other person. And the person said, are you mad? We are selling something that my child can do with crayon. You want to sell it to me at 500K? Do I look stupid to you? So this is just a subjective market. It's not necessarily about bubbles. Bubbles happen because there's a hype, there's mania, right? That is there. But the market is here to stay, and people will always pay what they feel something is worth, at any point in time. And so I hope that helps. I hope that answers it. I think you're mute.
So it's more of like the value that you see in what
subjective value based on beliefs. Mm-hmm.
So the second question that I want to ask is that the power of storytelling has created famous NFTs to sell millions of dollars. The famous digital artist Mike Winkelmann, better known as People, created a composite of 5,000 daily drawings to create perhaps the most famous NFT. That was in 2020. That went for staggering $69.3 million. How does storytelling impact the popularity and the value of NFT projects? Because one thing I know, storytelling, the other day we talked about assets, the importance of storytelling and assets. So I'd like you to expatiate together with these assets of that people have been talking about.
So storytelling is what makes us unique as a species, our ability to tell stories. This is the reason why ideas sometimes, survive the people who created them, right? This is the reason why you have institutions that have lived and survived for 200, 500, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, even though those who originally created the idea, they're long gone and their bones even turned to dust. All right. So storytelling is what makes us unique. Like I said, like when I use the analogy of the handkerchief, right? I can the same handkerchief, I can give you value just by simply telling a story, about it. Storytelling is what people do, for example, on their CVs to project themselves, certain light. This is the reason why someone who's not very good practically, hands-on, will pass an interview at the expense of someone who's probably even better qualified for the job because they've been able to sell themselves properly, right? That is what differentiates us as humans. We're able, everything that you see today, this event you're having today is a function of storytelling. You simply said, NGX is celebrating World IP Day. You want to do this. You sold the story, and all the 100+ people on this platform believed the story and decided to key into it. And that's why we're all here today. So it's all a function of the kind of story you can tell. And about storytelling is not just about the quality of the content, because there are people who are very good, but do not have the platform or the exposure. Storytelling also has to do with the pedestal that you're standing on when you're telling the story. Right? A simple retweet of your story from someone who has millions of followers can turn around the value that your story has. Is it that has it changed the meaning of your story or the lesson of the story? It hasn't. It has simply given it more visibility. So storytelling has to do with the content and has to do with the platform in which you're able to project, that story to other people. So yeah, storytelling, it doesn't apply just to NFTs. It applies to everything that we do as humans, but even more so something that is subjective, such as NFTs. So for you, those of you who aspire to create, digital assets, you must be willing not to just put something there and hope that people will just receive some kind of inspiration and say, I want to buy this piece. You must be willing to be able to evoke feelings, emotional feelings, evoke something in them that when they see it, even though they are not seeing you, they feel a certain connection towards it and they're willing, to contribute to it. And someone had asked before that, is this just about art? So this is not just about arts. It's just about anything of value, anything that is unique to you. Exactly. Storytelling is the reason why people want to pay much more for a .com domain than they would maybe for another extension, right? Because people have perceived, and people have agreed that for you to have a .com domain, there's a certain level of hierarchy, there's a certain level of value that it has, right? So like I said, we are all, what separates us as species is storytelling, the ability to tell stories. And so that is why it's important to this particular discussion. And it's all down to how you're able to evoke feelings or use your words to create desire amongst the other person who's going to be consuming from the other end. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I want to ask another question. And it has to do, where do you begin if you want to break into the space? And what
Sorry, say that again.
Where do you want to begin if you want to break into the NFT space?
Mm-hmm.
And what makes a good NFT project in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you want to break into the NFT space, I want to assume that you're referring to the current.
Is a strong indication of an NFT. Yeah, I've not finished the question. So what I'm saying is that, and also community is a strong indication of how successful an NFT can be. So what has community to do with breaking into the NFT space, belonging to a community?
Yeah. So I want to assume that you're referring to, the current wave, of NFTs where people are, the pictures and the PFPs, profile pictures, and all of that. Communities are another key. Remember when I said storytelling, but you need to have a platform for people who are listening to your story.
Yes.
Right? If you don't have people who are listening to your story, then your story is just as good as the next person who's listening to your story. Right? So that is why people who are coming up with NFT projects try as much as possible to either use marketing agencies to be able to reach out to a prospective community of people who want to get involved, or they use guerrilla tactics or growth hacking tactics to create a community that will anticipate their drops, anticipate the NFTs that they want to release. When you create a community and you incentivize those community by telling them that the more participation they make and the more referrals they make, the higher their chances of getting free versions of those NFTs. They will go, crazy for you and begin to talk to their friends and begin to and the more people get to know about it, the more popular it becomes. So it's almost like you're creating a viral network of people who will now be able to see what you're offering, and that increases your chances of being able to exchange it or sell it for more valuable amounts than if only 3 people, knew about it. So yes, so people invest in community. So how do you, the first one of the question was, how do you get started? You get started by education. I think that's probably some of the things that we're doing today. But education does not stop at this seminar. Education continues on YouTube, right? Continues on Twitter. So unfortunately, I may not be able to drop names, but you have to just simply go and Google the leading NFT subject matter experts or content creators on Google, on YouTube and on Twitter. You find them mostly on those spaces. And then for every NFT project, there is almost always a Discord channel where the community comes together to talk about the project, to anticipate the date of listing, to anticipate every other information about who's lucky, who has been able to get whitelisted or get some space. All right. So to learn about this space, to get into it, you have to really to invest in education, which thankfully, for all of us is free. You can get them on YouTube today, and you can follow the subject matter experts on Twitter who make it their bread and butter to find out the right side of information. On the slides, if the slides will be circulated, I also dropped some tools that people can use to look for information about NFTs. Where they can easily get alerts as to the latest projects coming up and the trending projects coming up. I hope that helps, Mrs. Omadele. Mr. Omadele, you're on mute. You're muted now.
Please, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
So you're talking about land, this virtual land or metaverse and can buy it. And and there's someone saying that on the metaverse, like Sandbox, you can actually create your fashion line, and then you can now sell them on the Sandbox. So what's the relationship between NFTs and the metaverse? Because it's like there's no, I can't say that it's parallel. They have worked. I mean, they're working together. Yeah. So tell me, because it's an innovation, and where is this taking us to?
Yeah. So think of the metaverse the way you think of the world today. Trying to use an analogy. Think of NFTs as the items that you see in the world today. Your wig, your certificate, your house, your car, all of those things. In the metaverse, we have those digital assets today. I know there was a time, the first time I played around in a certain metaverse called Decentraland, I was running into a lot of people, right? But when you come into that particular space, maybe you're all wearing the same clothes. Now people want to, or you're looking the same. Now people want to start looking different and giving themselves an identity, just like we don't like to blend in the world, and we want to stand out, right? People want to look good. People want to, feel good, right? So in those spaces, you have people who now say, look, I want to look different from the next person. I want to buy a haircut. What they call, for those who are familiar with gaming parlance, skin, what they call skin. You'll be amazed that your children do not want you to buy them clothes, physical clothes again, or physical sneakers. They want you to give them money to buy skin in games so that they can look good when they are meeting with their friends in the metaverse, when they are attending concerts in the metaverse. It sounds ridiculous, but that is what's happening today. They say, I want to buy skin, right? And what does skin refer to? Their looks, what they're wearing, their gear, right? They want to look different. They want to show it off to their friends and say, have you seen my jacket? I remember that day. I mean, I was taking that, stroll around, just looking around, playing around, that metaverse. And then I told one of my friends, who's, big in this, this subject as well. He said, dude, let me lend you my jacket, so you look, I'm like, jacket. Like, I don't have gas fees to pay for collecting jacket from you. I'm just here to play, and then guess what? He eventually sold this jacket for a lot of money to somebody who thought wearing a jacket in that space makes it look cooler than everybody wearing the t-shirts, and looking a certain way. So the same way, even for games, when you're playing games, there are locations in games. When you're playing games, you probably see this particular house there in that game. Everybody comes across a particular house. Everybody passes this particular field. Everybody passes a particular forest. Everybody, people want to buy, items in those games. And those items, a lot of times, there's only one type of it. They are non-fungible, right? So these are things that people use to be relevant in those worlds, all right? So NFTs in those places are like what normal real assets are like to us in the real world. So if more people are paying attention to that metaverse world and spending more of their time there, you best believe that they want to look different. The same way they are paying today for blue tick to look different on Instagram and Twitter, right? It's going to mean a lot to people that, look, I own this house, this property everybody's passing by. After all, maybe potentially in this game, the game will make it such that anybody that wants to pass by this house will pay a particular toll fee. And if I own this property, I'll be the one getting all that toll fee. So it's a paradigm shift, like I said. So NFTs in the metaverse are like what, real life items, remember when I was trying to show us physical, non-fungible items, right, in the real world. So the same way NFTs are like that in the metaverse. And that's the interplay. So the metaverse is the world itself. NFTs are like the items in those worlds that are unique, right, to individuals. Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Does that make sense?
Thank you so much. Yeah. So the thing is that so many brands, I'm just saying in conclusion, we're beginning to see how Nike and Starbucks and, these big companies, they're all buying space on the metaverse so that people can buy these non-fungible tokens. And it's just amazing where the world is. And whether we like it or not, that's a new world. That's it. And we can't take it away. And that's where our kids go to. I mean, we have kids that they're on Roblox, and already you're looking at how, if you've seen that, you're beginning to see how brands are trying to get into Roblox so that people can buy,
Yes,
they can buy lots of things. And that's an example of metaverse and the NFTs working together. So companies are trying to see how they can monetize that environment.
Absolutely.
So it's important that we begin to understand this new frontier technology and see how we can benefit from it and how we can even monetize ourselves. We can't just be blind, to what's going on, but that is the future. Absolutely. I want to say a big thank you so much for coming, Mr. Victor. Thank you for coming, and just stay around because questions, we're going to have questions, and I know some people would like to ask questions.
Sure thing.
We have the second speaker. Let me just share.